Hello students of class 10. So today we are going to finish your pre-med syllabus and we are dealing with the chapter number 2, that is Nelson Mandela. This chapter is really very important as it has a lot of phrases, a lot of typical words, a lot of political words that are really very much essential to understand, as there can be a question from those terms. Okay, so you all are requested to pay attention on each and every line, and if you face any query, contact me directly in the school WhatsApp group. Okay, let's begin the chapter. So the chapter is all about apartheid system. First, let's talk about apartheid. What is apartheid? Apartheid system is basically a political system in which there is a discrimination on behalf of the skin color in Africa, in Western countries. Prior, you may have heard that there is a lot of discrimination in Africa. You have seen African cricket team in which there is Makhaya Ntini and there is also Sean Pollock. One is really very handsome and another one is actually of dark skin. So what actually was there before 1990s we are going to study. It has really a very great importance in the political history of South Africa. Okay, so the chapter is all about Nelson Mandela and the apartheid system. So this is all. Now, 10th May dawned bright and clear. For the past few days, I had been pleasingly besieged by the dignitaries and the world leaders who were coming to pay their respect before the inauguration. Now, the Nelson Mandela is talking about the experience of the 10th May. 10th May, it was really very bright for him. It was really very clear for him, as it is going to be the beginning of the true democracy in South Africa. That's why it is written over here that 10th May dawned bright and clear. And for the past few days, he was continuously getting greetings from the world leaders, and he was totally besieged by all of them. The inauguration will be the largest gathering ever of the international leaders on the South African soil. And now the gathering that is going to be there on the South African soil, it will be definitely one of the greatest gathering of the world leaders. The ceremonies took place in the lovely stone amphitheatre formed by the Union Building in Pretoria. So that function actually took place in Pretoria, and where in Pretoria? In the Union Building that is formed by the sandstone. And amphitheatre, you can understand it just from a cricket ground. Okay. For decades, this had been the seats of the white supremacy, and now it was the site of the rainbow gathering of the different colors and nations for the installation of the South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. He is just telling us the history of South Africa. As we know that Africa was actually the seat of white supremacy, means white skinned people were there who was ruling over there in South Africa. But now, at present, there was actually a non-racial government, that is the government of Nelson Mandela. Okay. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zenani. On the podium, Mr. De Klerk was the first sworn in as the second deputy president, and then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as the first deputy president. So he was actually at that day, he was with his daughter Zenani, and on the podium, Mr. De Klerk, first of all, Mr. De Klerk was there, and who had taken the oath as the second deputy president, and then Thabo Mbeki as the first deputy president. And when it was his turn, he pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote himself to the well-being of the republic and its people. And when his turn came, he pledged that day that I will devote myself for the well-being of our country and our republic. So to the assembled guests and the watching world I said, today all of us by our presence here confer glory and hope to the newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. So the sacrifices that they have suffered, they have gone through, from that sacrifices there must be a society on which the entire society should be proud. So this was the case over there. We who were outlaws not so long ago have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our soil. And today we have got privilege to welcome all the world leaders on our soil. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take positions with the people of our country of what is after all our common victory for justice, for peace and for human dignity. So now he is thanking all the distinguished international leaders, those who were there on the installation of the first democratic government. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing burdens of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender and other discrimination. Now they have just pledged that they will free themselves from all type of the discrimination, whether that is poverty, whether that is actually deprivation from anything, or gender discrimination or any other discrimination. And he also plays that never, never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of the one by the another. Means there will not be any discrimination, there will not be any oppression by one to another. Nobody will face any discrimination from that particular point. Okay? And that point is actually the installation of the democratic government over there. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in an awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, troops carrier rode in the perfect formation over the Union building. So just as actually it is there in each and every political ceremony, the airways of that particular country, they show their power. So they were shocked to see an spectacular area of South African jets, helicopters, troop carriers, and they were roaring actually in perfect formation over the Union building. So it was not only a display of the pinpoint precision and military force. Actually, they were not showing how accurate they are, how talented they are. They were not actually showing that. They were actually showing that but a demonstration of the military loyalty to the democracy. But actually they were showing their loyalty towards the newborn democracy in South Africa, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. Only moment before, the highest dinner of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with the ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. So all the high rank holders, those who were there, they went in front of Nelson Mandela and they just taken an oath of their loyalty towards the newborn liberty. Though Nelson Mandela was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years ago they would not have saluted but arrested him. When there was no political balance, the same police officers, the same military force, they arrested Nelson Mandela at that particular day. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems, the vision of the whites singing Nagoski Segalel Africa. So this was actually the national anthem of the whites, and the blacks were singing the dance, the old anthem of the republic. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem, once they despised, they would soon know the lyrics by heart. Though at that particular day nobody knows the lyrics completely, but he knows that after a certain period of time they will be able to know. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with the sense of history. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my birth, a white-skinned people of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of the racial domination against the dark-skinned peoples of their own land. So he is saying that in the beginning of the 19th century, the white-skinned people have just created their own discrimination over all the people of their own land. The structure they had created formed one of the basis, one of the harshest, one of the most inhuman society of the world ever known. Now in last decade of the 20th century and my own 8th decade as a Mandela system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that has recognized the right and freedom of all people regardless of color of their skin. Now in South Africa there is a balanced system, and this system actually is giving to everyone equality. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of the thousands of my people whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. So that day was not ultimately came. That day comes after the sacrifice sacrifice of lot of people, and lot of people sacrifice, and we cannot actually repay the value of that sacrifice. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. That long noble line ended and now began again with me. I was pained that I was not able to thank them, that they were not able to see what their sacrifice had brought. So he was also feeling guilty, as he is not able to thank them that what their sacrifice had brought. The policy of their party created a deep and lasting wounds in the country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. So it will take so many generations to recover from that particular hurt. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was it produced Oliver Thambos, Walter Sissolas, Chief Lucullus, and Yusuf Dagus, Graham Fishers, and Robert Sobogubs of our time. So this was actually there. Though that particular era, that particular time has so many defects, but there is also unintended effect that this particular period has created these people. Men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom, generosity that dear like may never be known again. Perhaps it requires such depth of operation to create such height of the character. My country is rich in minerals and gems and that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the pure diamond. So though actually South Africa is full of minerals, but Nelson Mandela knows that the real wealth of South Africa is its people. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. Time and again I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. For the same idea they were just risking their lives. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. He has seen a great courage in the man that can actually beyond the imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Everybody has fear, but the real courage is to get victory over that fear. The brave man is not he who does not afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So no one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin. Mandela is saying that from the beginning nobody has hatred towards anyone, but because of his skin color, because of his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. So it's also there that we generally learn love naturally. Even in the grimmiest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. So when he was just pushing to his limits, even then he has seen a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards. Okay, man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never be extinguished. In our life, every man has its twin obligation to his family, to his parents, to his wife, children, and he has an obligation to his people. So everybody has two duties. One duty is towards his nation, and the another one is to his family. In a civil and human society, each human is able to fulfill these obligations according to his own inclination and abilities. If the society is free, if the society is civilized, everybody can fulfill these two obligations. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. If in South Africa anybody tried to live like a human being, he will be isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart. So, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. I didn't in the beginning choose to place my people above my family. In the beginning, Mandela was similar like any other person, but gradually he realized his duty. But in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation as a son, brother, father, and a husband. So he is also saying I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that run through my village, free to roast meals under the stars and ride broad back of the slow moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by my customs to my tribe, I was not troubled by any laws of human God. So in the beginning he was free to enjoy each and everything, and until he opposed that system, he was not actually as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to that I began to hunger for it. Then he gradually realized that actually his freedom has been taken from him, and then he started to search for that freedom. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedom of being able to stay out at nights, read what I please and go where I choose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and on-level freedom of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having family, the freedom not to be obstructed in any lawful life. So these two things, to study or to marry, it was not actually obstructed in a lawful life. But then I slowly saw that not only was I free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. But then Nelson Mandela realized that not only he but also his community was not free. I saw that it was not just the freedom, my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. So he realized that almost everyone who has colored skin, he was actually have faced the discrimination. Then that is when I joined the African National Congress, and that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for freedom of my people. And then when he joined African National Congress ANC, and the freedom of his freedom became the freedom of his people. It was the desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives and with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, that transferred a frightened young man into a bold man, that drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. So this was the change which Nelson Mandela gone through actually, and why this change occurred only because he fought for the equality of his community. I was no more virtuous self-sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I couldn't even enjoy the poor and limited freedom I was allotted when I knew my people were not free. So when he realized that actually his people were not free, his community was not free, how can he live life comfortably? Freedom is invisible. The chains on any of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. If any of my people is in chains, then definitely it is a chain on him. I knew that oppression must be liberated just as early as oppressed. So both oppression and oppressed, they must be liberated. A man who takes another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the walls of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. The person who is actually oppressing another person, he is actually a prisoner of hatred, and he is actually a victim of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. Just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. The oppressor and oppressed alike are robbed of their humanity. Both oppressor and oppressed, they both are actually alike because they both are robbed from their humanity. So students, you have seen that both the oppressor and oppressed, they must have been liberated from if we want to extinguish all the discrimination from the society. So this is all about the chapter, students. I hope you have learned the chapter very properly. Even if you have any query, you can put your queries direct to me in the school WhatsApp group. Thank you. Keep learning. Stay with me. Stay with Abhay sir. Okay. Thank you. Keep learning.